I don't think, well, I guess public opinion has changed for the stupid people, that is. Well, with COVID and the restrictions and all of those that have been implemented, you're seeing a change coming from the uber leftist areas that have still, crazily enough, had these restrictions. Now, I'm in Texas. We hadn't had those in a very long time. But there are certain pockets throughout the entire country that is starting to lift mandates, starting to change in regards to its mask and requirements and all of that. And you may ask why. Some will say, hey, well, midterms are coming up. I think it's a little, yeah, that's true. That's not false, but there's a little more to it. And I think it's important to document this. Now, Impact Research, which is basically Biden's polling firm, and there's a memo that they put out that I believe, let me see, yes, Punch Bowl ended up getting hold of. And we're going to read some of this. And this basically spells out the plan of what it is that they're going to do. And you hopefully have sniffed this shit out. But they just basically put it in text, what they're going to do. Listen to this. We're going to read it. After 2 years, this memo was sent on the 24th, that necessitated lockdowns, travel bans, school closures, mask mandates, and nearly 1 million deaths. Nearly every American finally has the tools to protect themselves against this virus. It's time for Democrats to take credit for ending the COVID crisis phase of COVID war, point to important victories like vaccine distribution and providing economic stability to Americans, and fully enter the rebuilding phase that comes after any war. Below, we lay out some strategic thoughts for Democrats positioning themselves on COVID-19 after nearly 2 years of the pandemic. So the approach here is that they're about to try to do a fucking victory lap, okay? Granted, why they're dropping these restrictions has absolutely nothing to do with them and having any victory. In fact, a lot of what they've been advocating in terms of what they said this 2 years necessitated, the things they advocated, were ineffective regarding whatever it is that they said it was going to do, right? So you've seen not pretty much any difference between these states, for example, that don't have strict lockdowns or lockdowns at all versus those that do. Their case rates still through the roof. Death rates and then effective fatality rate, wasn't any different. So they got all that shit wrong. But what's happened now is that public opinion has slightly tipped in terms of the scale. And they're noticing that having this position of we're going to continue to have you be under these needless restrictions, a lot of people are going to vote, which, we'll have another conversation for a different day. And that's going to be influenced by where their local politician or wherever are on this issue. And being pro-lockdown for certain aspects of the country or certain spots of the country is not a favorable position to have. So this is how they're going to position themselves to say, okay, we need to get off of this shit. We absolutely need to get off of this. However, we don't want to make it seem like we were wrong. So we gotta, this is the route that they're suggesting. So they're going to declare the COVID phase or the crisis phase of COVID over and push for feeling and acting more normal. Thanks to the Democrats, we are nowhere near where we were 2 years ago or even 1 year ago. Democrats have a tremendous opportunity to claim an incredible historic success. They vaccinated hundreds of millions of people, prevented the economy from going into free fall. So they're going to just make shit up here. Kept small business from going under. Oh, they're just lying at this point. Oh, man, they're just telling just a flat out field. But again, this is politics, guys. As funny as it is, this is what politics is. It is literally speaking shit into existence. No matter how false it is, we know for a fact so many small businesses are no longer. It's not that they were on hold to get on the other side of this. It's that they stopped and they're not coming back. It says, because of President Biden and the Democrats, we can safely return to feeling much more normal, and they should claim that proudly. So again, They recognize that the position is not a favorable one. So their way of getting out of it by not admitting that they were wrong is to make shit up and claim that they were successful. The second bullet point, recognize that people are worn out and feeling real harm from the years of long restrictions and take their side. Again, this is all about strategy. They have made themselves appear, and you've even seen some of their commentators mention this, like, holy shit, maybe we're out of touch. Maybe we're out of touch. Yeah, you are. Most Americans have personally moved out of crisis mode. Twice as many voters are now concerned about COVID's effect on the economy, and more than, about someone in their family or someone they know being infected with the Modelo virus. So they're saying that, well, there's polls are showing that people care more about the economic and its concerns than they do catching COVID because they ain't scared of it anymore. 2/3 of parents and 80% of teachers say the pandemic caused learning loss, and voters are overwhelmingly more worried about learning loss than kids getting COVID. 6 in 10 Americans describe themselves as worn out by the pandemic. The more we talk about the threat of COVID and restrict people's lives because of it, the more we turn them against us and show them we're out of touch with their daily reality. This is why I say that, yeah, there are stupid Democrats in regards to their handlers, like the actual shot callers. But a lot of these people aren't fucking stupid. So sometimes it's straight malice. Sometimes it's straight evil. And we often don't want to say that it's because of them just being evil. And we want to say that it's because they're stupid. At least, if you read what they just read, that tells you they're not stupid. They may do things purposefully, but they're not stupid. They're not stupid. They know, and they have their hand on the pulse of what's going on. They know what's going on. They know how public opinion has maybe shifted in some regards. They know how it is that this makes them look, and this is why they're pivoting on it. They created the problem. They're going to try to claim a victory, even though none of what they said, for the most part, worked. And they'll try to talk it into existence. But that is only happening because the opinion in terms of their polling efforts and what they picked up and what the public, in terms of what their position is, they don't like this shit. So they got to change. Third bullet point, acknowledge COVID still exists and likely will for a long time. This is their way of trying to salvage being wrong. This is how they're going to do it. This is okay, because it's all about strategy. They can't just flat out say, okay, we were wrong, go back to normal. Well, they're going to get destroyed in the event that they do that. So they have to say, okay, we got to hype it up to some degree still. So they said, we are not advising that Democrats talk like Republicans that have largely ignored the pandemic, even pre-vaccine. Declaring a return to new normalcy does not mean ignoring that people will continue to get it, that we shouldn't be responsible, or that we should turn our backs on the medical community that is treating those sick and developing the therapeutics that will save lives. Oh, is that what we're calling now? You finally admitting that's therapeutic? Instead, it means recognizing the threat of COVID is no longer what it is even a year ago, and therefore should not be treated as such. So again, that's how they're going to word it. Shutdowns, masks, and lockdowns were meant to save lives when there was not yet a vaccine that could do that. Yet the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission. CDC has said that. Rochelle Walensky has stated exactly that. Voters know we have the tools in the toolkit to be responsible in combating and living with this. Vaccines and boosters to minimize illness, and mask and social distancing around vulnerable groups. Here it is. So that part, in combination with this last one, or the second to last one, it says don't set COVID zero as the victory condition. They're smart enough to know that that is a stupid position and it's a losing effort. Americans also don't think COVID zero is a victory. They think the virus is here to stay, and 83% say that the pandemic will be over when it's a mild illness like the flu rather than COVID being completely gone. And 55% prefer that COVID should be treated as an endemic disease. And that's what most Americans are dealing with, a disease with fatality rates like the flu. They're admitting that. now, because most of us took the personal responsibility to protect ourselves and our families by getting vaccinated. That's not true. The infected fatality rate was always similar, even before the vaccinations. Were always similar and more akin to what the flu was. In fact, in some cases, the flu was more dangerous. For children, specifically, the flu was more dangerous for them. Again, not my opinion. That's what the data said. Man, you used to get banned on social media for saying some of those things. Unless you're me and you show the receipts and you back-to-back strike-winning champion. Americans also assume they will get COVID. 77% agree that it's inevitable, and most people in the U.S. will eventually get COVID, and 61% of Americans who had never tested positive think they're going to likely be infected over the next year. And thanks to the work of Democrats, what they've done over the past year, despite believing contracting COVID is inevitable, most Americans are no longer fearful. That's as simple as that. People aren't scared of it, and they're saying, according to the polling efforts, we see that. We should change our trajectory on this. And this is the last one. This is the hilarious bullet point. Stop talking about restrictions and the unknown future ahead. They know it's a losing effort. They're smart enough to know that. If we focus on how bad things are, which is how they have been approaching it for the last 2 years, giving you a death ticker and a counter and everything, bad things still are and how much worse they're going to get, we set Democrats up as failures, unable to navigate us through this. They're smart enough to know this, man. So they're just completely being malicious in their approach. It's simple. They're not stupid. When 99% of Americans can get vaccinated, we cause more harm than we prevent with voters by going into our third year talking about restrictions. And if Democrats continue to hold a posture that prioritizes COVID precautions over learning how to live in a world where COVID exists, here it is, but does not dominate, they risk paying dearly for it in November. That's why they're changing. Now, the people that I do think are stupid, which are just regular folks, will probably let them get away with it. But hopefully there's those of you that woke up to this sham and understand, because of guys like myself are covering it, they think you guys are fucking stupid. You don't want to be looked at like a dumbass, do you? But they're smart enough to think you're stupid, and they're a little right in some cases. And they're about to try to pull a big okie doke on you. But they know that this pro-restriction, pro-lockdown, doom and gloom position is not a winning effort going into these midterms. And that's the only reason why they're changing, is because they want to present themselves, position themselves in a good spot going into November. That's it. Because they know if you lead with this dumb shit, you're going to lose. Period. These pieces of shit, man. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.